How's it going, everybody? My name is Matthew Cormier, and I'm going to be talking to you about issues facing youth today in the justice system and a youth program that I picked out that I think is effective in making a difference for these youth. The program I'm going to be going over is located in New York City, and it's youth who engage in boxing programs. For boxing programs in New York, this goes back actually quite a ways. The New York City Police Athletic Leagues go back to the early 1900s, and boxing has been one of their most prominent programs in that location. Until recently, it's been very effective. Until about around 2008, they actually subsidized the program, deeming it as a barbaric sport for those engaging in it. So at that point in time, it was removed. Unfortunately, at that point, you're dealing with individuals who sought out these programs, especially males who seek to take out their aggression instead of using it on the streets specifically, but there are also other individuals where they develop themselves in that program of responsibility and learning how to be disciplined in a sport such as boxing. So a lot of the stockholders and people that were invested in the Police Athletic League, or commonly known as PAL, they did not see it this way, so they believed that there needed to be changes to be made. There were a few officers who did recognize that this was an effective program, and they sought out to make a difference and actually go out on their own and incorporate a boxing club in New York without the assistance of the Police Athletic League. However, there's obviously going to be a tremendous financial burden placed on these individuals. Later on, we would have a boxing program actually started back up. It was started up by a detective in the New York Police Department named by Pat Russo. Detective Russo believed that boxing was an effective form of community policing and involving the police in these troubled youths and at-risk youths who are vulnerable in New York. And as we know, especially today, youth are very vulnerable, especially in New York and these inner city areas where they need role models to look up to, and especially in some of these locations, they look up to the wrong people. They're going to look at people who are making money, people who have respect on the street, meeting up with gangs. There's not a lot of after school activities, even though it's in New York, especially ones that they would be interested in. The PAL is still active, but there's a lot of things that are in the PAL that some of these kids, especially in the inner cities, are not quite interested in. But boxing has always been something that these kids have been able to go to. So Pat Russo recognized this, and he got in contact with Teddy Atlas or Dr. Theodore Atlas, and they created a foundation which seeks to gain funding to start a boxing program. Their mission going forward was to develop discipline and a self-esteem in young people. Discipline is very important, especially in that location. And getting them off the streets is also extremely important because the longer they're on the streets, such as even places not in inner city areas, being involved in after school activities and in sports is an effective way to create discipline and take away those times where these kids could be involved in other activities. So this is very important, especially to create that team aspect in kids to be able to go forward and develop themselves into better people and live a better improved lifestyle to maximize their potential as humans. So incentives, there is incentives for the boxing program. For kids that receive A's on their report cards or 90 average, they receive $50 from the Theodore Atlas program, which can be extremely effective considering that it's a lot for these kids to be involved in the boxing program and also do well in school. But a lot of these kids in inner cities are not quite focused on their grades. But with this $50 incentive, which may not be a lot for some, can be an effective way for these kids to be able to push towards making better grades. So up until now, the gym operation costs for Pat Russo's gym located in New York City is $50,000 a year. But there's always a need to gain more money, and they've gained more momentum over recent times or recent years. One thing that brought them more public attention is a Netflix documentary called Counterpunch, which is where I actually first learned about this New York City program. Counterpunch actually gave them a lot of national attention and showing the effectiveness of their program and how they are having financial issues and how they fight to have more money to be able to keep this gym open since they are no longer covered by the Police Athletic League in New York City. And basically, excuse me, currently, 700 at-risk New York City youths are registered under the program, which tells you how effective and how much this is a need in New York City. Can it be considered a barbaric sport? Of course it can be, but this is a sport that is more than just fighting. It's about having discipline. It's about doing more. It's about holding yourself to a higher standard. And basically, people that are especially more emotional, taking out their aggression in the right form in an area and location which is sanctioned and allowed for such violence to occur in a controlled environment. What this program does is it allows for youth in the New York Police Department to be able to utilize that community policing effort to instill a relationship to build on and taking away from the current views, especially in the media, of New York City police officers and other officers around the nation with police brutality, so this will basically allow for there to be that stronger relationship between them so that it's not viewed as a system that encourages racial disparities and discrimination. A few of the a few articles that I read about, one specifically in the Journal of Juvenile Justice, written by Christopher Campbell and Jacqueline Van Warmer. They talked about having programs outside of basically out in the public that can actually reduce recidivism rates. They are quoted as saying, increasing the dosage of violator programs, which may be what is necessary to provide a more effective alternative to detention. So utilizing a program like this, especially when exiting detention, can be incurred by the judge to have these kids participate in a program like boxing under someone like Detective Russo to be able to instill in them responsibilities and discipline. Additionally, there is a program which is used called Fight with Insight, which is a boxing project which is intended for children who have committed a sexual offense. So not just a violent offense, but a sexual offense outside of drugs or anything like that, which you may think that it'd be used. It's used as a 12-week diversion program, which comprises boxing sessions and cognitive behavioral group therapy. The participants in Fight with Insight spoke of changes in their behavior and improved understanding and greater insight, such as being aware of consequences and taking responsibility for their actions. I think that boxing is something that's very effective. I think that pushing forward additional other sports programs are very effective, and I think that the criminal justice system should recognize instead of detention, we should be looking at programs such as sports that involve kids in a team atmosphere to be able to push forward and rehabilitate. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Have a good day.